Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me on another Spec3 informational video. Today we're talking about the right to the line. People with a knowledge of racing coming from sim racing or from watching something like Formula 1 or NASCAR may think that just having any overlap between two vehicles is enough to entitle you to space. However, people in club racing are not omniscient. They don't know where everybody is at all times, and they don't have a spotter, so their rules are a little bit different. With the National Autosport Association, the right to the line is very clearly defined. The right to the line is if you are attempting to pass a car in front of you, if your wheel reaches their front doors, then you have a right to be there, and you are entitled to at least 3/4 car width left on the track. If you have any less than that amount of overlap, if the car in front of you chooses to take the line they want, you have to back out or cede that space. There is an additional clause there that says that the leading driver cannot squeeze the passing car off of the track, citing the 3/4 car width rule. That means that if there is already more than one car width or more than 3/4 car width space available, and a car reaches that point of having a right to that space, you can't then move them off a 1/4 car width. But if there is only a 3/4 car width space and the passing car places their car there, once they reach the door with the front wheel, the leading driver does not have to then give them the space back. They can keep everything cranked down and only leave the passing car 3/4 of a car width. One change to this rule that can occur is if you are on a track that does not have grass next to it, and instead there is a jersey barrier or other concrete or solid wall. The 3/4 car width rule then changes to a full car width, so you can't push them through the wall. Now quickly, we'll talk about blocking, but this could be its own video by itself. But basically, unlike in sim racing, like some people may know, blocking is not necessarily reacting to the driver behind you. Instead, in NASA, you get one attempt to be defensive. So if a car moves to your inside, you're able to move over to that side and block them from taking that lane. But if they choose to go back to the left or whatever the other side is, you can't react again and move over. If we combine the two things we just talked about, which is not being able to squeeze someone off the track, only needing to allow 3/4 car width, and only allowed one move to be defensive, if you look in this next clip, you'll see great examples of all of those. So the white car is slowed down by out-of-class traffic, and they will take a defensive line going into this turn by going middle track. They leave 3/4 car width on the outside, and the orange car is able to place their car there as a calculated risk, and the white car is not able to then squeeze them back off the track. They have to hold that line. They could have given them more space, but they did not have to, and that was a risk that the orange car took to take a pass that they thought that they could pull off, which they did successfully. Now imagine you're the white car in this situation. It probably behooves you to move over and give that car space so that they don't spin or wreck into you. But in this case, these two drivers knew each other and understood what each other was capable of, so that was also a calculated risk by the white car in order to make that pass difficult while remaining legal. Now, if you combine this knowledge with the knowledge of the general passing rules, which say the onus of safety in completing the pass lies on the passing car, that means that if you are attempting a pass and you are not comfortable putting two wheels off to complete the pass safely without contact, then perhaps it is not a pass that you should attempt. Now, that is not the rule itself, but that is the mindset that you should be in when trying to think about what you're doing on track. Here is an example of me executing a pass safely following these rules. So I am able to bring my car completely side by side and past before we ever turn the wheel to initiate the turn. Here is an example of that same turn where I do not have enough room to attempt a pass. So I couldn't dive bomb in there and then under braking try to reach his door. And here is another example of where I do get a run. I get alongside, but my front wheel is not by their door, and they're able to slam the door shut because I did not have a right to be there. So this is an interesting scenario where he had to trust that I knew the rule and would back out to avoid contact. But if he did turn in and we had contact, I would have been at fault. In any of these situations, you need to think about whether or not you're in the right and whether or not it's a smart decision. They're not always the same thing. Now here is an example from the same race of where I make a pretty bad decision. So I'm coming up on a battle that's already happening. These two cars are going at it. The car in front of me has a rookie stripe, so I should have that in mind, that maybe they don't have the awareness that everyone else might. And then I try an outside low percentage pass where nobody would expect to be passed, and that car moves over on me. So this person would not be ruled as pushing me off the track because I did not have position at their door before they moved over, and then logically it's not a place where you'd expect to pass. Here is an example of a very similar situation from the same race. However, I am in legal position when this car moves over. So I am in the right, but it still was not a smart decision because this driver was busy focusing on the pink car that was passing them. They were clearly off pace. They were not somebody that I should have trusted to expect me on the outside where nobody gets past at this track. So it wasn't smart for me to do, even though I was legally correct. On top of that, if you have side-to-side incidental contact when you do have legal position on track, it's usually ruled a racing incident. Only when there's damage to a vehicle, deviation from your line, or a loss of position from that contact does it become something to review further and potentially assess penalties for. As always, thanks for watching, and if you have any further questions, please consult the NASA Club Codes and Regulations, otherwise known as the CCR. And if you have further questions beyond that, feel free to join the NASA Spec3 discussion group on Facebook or on the NASA forums and ask your questions there.